All right, let's kick off part 2. Welcome everybody. Diego, Jabin. Glad you guys are talking and having a good time. I'm gonna go ahead and pause the music we got here. So today we're gonna go back and jump into Revita, and then based on the last suggestion, we're going to go and we're going to jump into GameMaker, and we're going to look at creating a system of linked rooms. That way we can basically create any kind of layout inside of a world that we want, and we're going to make a nice system to be able to go from one room to the next and back, and basically design it any way you want. So, all right. I'm going to fire up Revita though. I really enjoyed the last time I played, and I want to play it a little more. So let's go ahead and get it going. This time I'm wired from the get-go, so I'm hoping that we don't have any of the issues we did last time. Okay, should pick up right where we left off. Hello there. I'm glad you guys were able to join. Now I just have to remember the controls. It's only been like 3 days, but still. Alright. I think I just beat Denial, and I'm pretty happy with everything I've got. So we're going on to the next room. So let's see. Somber Sepulcher? Right, left bumper is jump. Okay, got it. I remember the controls are funky. Just had to get back into it. Come on. Let me jump higher. I still have that accuracy debuff, and man, it's rough. That is all over the place. And I need to heal. Okay. I think I can only heal with enemies nearby if I'm remembering correctly. That guy hurts. Oh yeah, Diego, did you ever figure out why you're not getting purple enemies, like elites or anything? I'm kind of curious if you've played anymore and figured that out. Ooh, a prison key. Interesting. Oh, okay. I'm just curious, because you saw the version I was on. I think there's probably a way for me to check. I thought you said that you were actually on a higher version number than me. Like, I'm on 1.0.4a, and I thought you were on a higher version, and yet I seem to have a better feature? I don't know, like, Elite Monster seems like a... ouch. A thing they would add in. I'm just curious. Okay, there you go. So A must... There you go. That must be the big update, is elite enemies. Well, looks like I started playing on a good one then. Okay. Don't don't need that. Did not do that right. Interesting. I like the enemy types so far. They seem to fit really well, like that ghost that yeah. They're really well designed. They still seem like fairly basic overall, but I imagine that it gets more complex as we go and more difficult. And I can't aim. Oh, come on. Can't get it. Yeah, I'll heal. I gain a lot less healing than I thought I did. Like the first round, like the first floor or something, it seemed like you gained a lot of healing, but now, man, I don't get very much at all. Ooh. Ah, jeez. Yeah, okay. This may be pretty close to the end for me. Floor 45, though, that's not too bad with a couple of curses. Man, these curses are rough, too. Are those guys dead? They didn't... No. They're dry bones. They don't die. Oh, they actually throw bones. Yeah, I wonder where that came from. Totally a Mario ripoff. So do I have to kill them all at the same time? Yes. Okay. Got it. I got a key. Might as well use it. I can't. Trash bag. Familiar that destroys enough bullets. If hit enough will reveal... Huh. Interesting. No good, though. No good. I was really hoping for a treasure chest that I could blow up for some health. Oh my gosh. This accuracy hurts so much. But hey, almost there. Ooh. Oh. I don't think I wanted to put myself right here. Okay. Okay, not out of this yet. What does this guy even do? Of course. I had him feared for the entire time. I didn't even see what he did besides that, I guess. Oh, there's my treasure chest. I wasted the key. Oh. Yeah, check their changelog. If you're not on A, it seems like that's it. But let me go check. Ooh, I'll take a shield. Let's go in. Let's go to setting, gameplay. Oh, you can adjust screen. Wow, is this 4 out of 10? I thought it was already on 10 out of 10. Jeez. Quick room. Huh. Okay. Bullet cap. Higher cap can lead to performance. I think I can probably handle it. Ooh, let's see my FPS. Oh, I want to see my stats too. I like being able to see this. Yeah, no, I don't see anything about that. It wouldn't be under video and audio, so no. I don't think so. Oh, cool. Now I can see my stats, and there's my FPS at the top. Yeah, real FPS and FPS. Nice. Okay. Alright. Here we go. Depression. I've got 2 hits, I think. Oh, okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. They do have less health. I actually have a chance at least. Okay. Halfway. Oh no, that's not where I wanted to be. Neither is that. Oh. Alright. That's as far as you got? Alright, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'll check accessibility in a second, Diego. I can't imagine it would be under there. That would be very weird. But, I guess. Again, I never tweaked any settings, so... Oh, good. Down to... Upgrading. I'm all there, man. Game speed, relic HUD, cursor, zoom, flashes, outline, complex inputs, enemy damage. Oh, okay. So you can change enemy damage, but that's not going to change whether they're elite or not. That wouldn't do anything. At least I wouldn't think it would. Okay, here we go. Various hats. Observatory, I'll take. Yeah. Return to the station. Oh. Interesting. Wow, that's a lot. Okay. That's neat. Ooh. By the imprisoned. I don't know what the imprisoned are quite yet, but I unlocked a trampoline, so I'll take it. Fungi pal. Let's see. Okay, I was going to upgrade my weapon, and I got either turned around or did not understand where I was going. Let's see. Ah, maybe it's over here. Okay, alright. Got him a bunch of keys. And this is where I can buy stuff. But what? Oh. And now it can now appear in the tower. Okay. I don't know any... Well, okay. I don't want to spend all my money. I might need my money to upgrade my weapon. And that's kind of something I want to do here. Here we go.
Na, the credit Steve? Aha! Naguri! I Naguri!
Machine gun. I should not have spent all those. I guess I don't want a shotgun anyway. Trade soul coins and materials. Okay. Nice. That's useful. So I can unlock a shotgun, which I don't like, or a machine gun. Low accuracy. That seems... that does not seem better. Like, I'll get them, I'll unlock them, but... I don't know. That does not seem... doesn't seem quite worthwhile yet. I think I'd rather go and unlock the rest of these. Don't know what they do yet. But hey, let's find out. Okay. That's everyone who's going to talk to me, so let's try this again. Looks like I'm starting with a couple of those perks as well. So, one of the things I talked about last time was when getting an ability or picking up a perk or something, like right now I have this floating ball thing. So it shows familiar that shoots spore bullets into the air. Okay, awesome. And then increases my jump height and it tells me how much. But one of the things I was talking about last time was the use of terminology inside of games and with a huge lack of explanation. So I have a thing that shoots spore bullets, but I don't know what spore bullets are. Does that just mean bullets that are smaller? Do they explode? Do they poison? Like, there's no explanation for it, and there's nowhere to go inside of the game, as far as I know, to go and look at it. You can't read about it anywhere. But I was playing a game on my iPhone called Summon Quest, and it's one of those like mob games where you're fighting mobs and you get an ability to upgrade and it like auto attacks everybody around you. And one of the things I really liked about it was at the end of each level, you got to choose an upgrade. And so it shows you 3 different upgrades, and on each one, there's a video that you can press play, and it shows you exactly what that upgrade does. And it's like, that's perfect. You don't have to spoil everything in advance, but when there's something new to introduce to the player, giving them the option of watching a video or reading a small line or 2 of text about what it is tremendously helpful, and I think will keep players engaged for longer, because a game like this clearly has a ton of stuff. And yeah, I'm gonna figure out a lot of it by just playing, but a lot of it is like, I don't know, maybe I won't figure it out because there's nowhere to figure it out at. Not everything is supernatural, super easy to figure out just by playing. Sometimes you really do need to read to figure out what's going on. So, it would be nice to have that option, and I jumped right into that guy. Nice. But that was something that I came across that I was talking about that was really great. Pre-rendered video versus seeing it in real time. I guess it kind of depends on the game you're playing. Like, probably a pre-rendered video. It would be a lot easier. Like in the game I'm talking about, it's just you and one monster, and it just shows exactly what that new upgrade does, whether throwing 2 daggers or having a fireball around you or spitting out daggers when you dodge or something. I think it would be really cool to be able to like go into a little zone where you can test out an upgrade, but that might be too much. It would be okay if like your game was solely focused on that build path, more so than like these quicker run games. But at least a line of text that actually explains what something does would be great. But a pre-rendered video, I think, where you can watch it, or like I did the first couple times, is I just skipped it. It's like, I don't want to watch a video, but then I got into the game more, and it's like, oh, I don't actually know what this thing does. I want to know. And so I actually watched it. It's there if you want it, and it's not there if you don't. Nice and simple. Ooh, nice. Interesting. So you get a curse +1. Okay. And then you automatically get a curse. Okay. Oh, that's gross. Lose soul while there's enemies in the room? Yikes. Ooh. I've got to figure out a way to get rid of those curses. There's got to be some kind of way. Dashing through enemies will damage them. That's pretty cool. I like that. Alright, so I just gotta kill enemies quickly. All the curses seem pretty nasty, yeah. I like that because it doesn't seem like you're given a curse without the choice. Like, I'm choosing to... Ow! I'm choosing to take those curses every time because I want the benefit. But, man, they are rough. Okay, I think I finally just noticed what my little fungi pal is actually doing. Okay. And I can't show you while there's actually no one around. But that's a great example of, like, that is not what I would expect his ability to do. So my little fungi shoots up into the sky, and then his attack just kind of wavers down. Like, I would never have expected shoot spore bullets into the air. Okay, I was reading it wrong. So it shoots them into the air. Alright. Still. I am not going to last long with this curse. Yeah, that fungi is pretty cool, and I read it wrong. So, still not the clearest, but it's not the worst. Oh, this is gonna be really rough. I don't think I'm gonna make it very far. Give your half of us half. That seems useful. I'm gonna need that. Take your souls away. Oh, jeez. Yeah, I will say that the upgrades and the curses are pretty good. I like them so far. The curses hurt, and you gotta really think about it. Alright. If I can actually take some of these guys down without taking damage for a while, let that artifact do its job. Okay. Here we go. Yeah. Hopefully my spore actually like does some damage here. Come on, Spork. Finish him off. There we go. Oh, I should have dashed into him to finish him. Ooh, yeah, I have not gotten to any sort of celestial room. Oh, but I got a memento. More max HP does not help. This game does not give you health. I don't need more health. Well, I don't need more max health. I need more health. Okay, now I do like this. Like, that seems worth it. Just get more HP is nice. That's all I'm gonna do for now. Just gotta get to a boss. Oh, okay. That's good. Using the max health for that. Okay. I see. That makes sense. So, it's not a total waste no matter what. Okay. Okay. Need one of those every single time. More health. Let's go. Oh, okay. I'm sure I have been. There's so much stuff to find. I will check that out next time. Oh my gosh. Left of the metro. Got it. There's always stuff. I haven't found a secret room yet, like at least one that you can break. I thought you said there was one, Diego, but now I'm not sure. Oh no. See, like these guys and their attacks, they just fit perfectly with the spore theme. That's awesome. So good. Oh, there's spikes there. Of course there are. Just try. Okay. I was looking for some kind of crack or some kind of indication. I figured there'd be something, but I haven't seen much. Still longer they exist. Scare enemies. Interesting. I don't want any of those right now, but. I like that. I like those upgrades. Just don't want them just yet. Oh, there's that poison meter you were talking about. I had yet to see it. I wanted to actually see how that worked. Nah. Going in here, that's for sure. Okay, there's a relic for it. That's kind of what I figured. Ah, okay. Burn enemies. That's cool. So, here's another one of those questions. What's the difference between burn and poison? They both seem like they do the same thing. Does burn spread from an enemy to an enemy? Like if it's close to one? 'Cause that would be interesting. But I don't know. I've played a lot of a tabletop game called Gloomhaven, and it has poison and wound in it, but they actually do the opposite things that you would expect. Poison actually makes them take an extra damage when they get hit. Oh, there we go. That's obviously something I can break, right? And, oh, no. I want to kill the wall. And wound actually makes them take damage. So to me, it's the exact opposite of what you would expect there. And why does this wall not die? Oh. I thought you had to open it while there were enemies. Okay, that was a very obvious secret. I feel like I would have seen those by now, but maybe I wouldn't have. Yeah, alright, cool. I finally found a secret. That was my first one. Oh, you have to spot... Okay, okay. Got it. So did I spot that because it was obvious, or did I... Or was it obvious and then I spotted it? That's the question. Because that one seemed so obvious, I don't know how I could have missed it before. One, okay. Alright. Secret rooms, I think, are justified in not telling the player. Like, they'll figure it out, and that's something like, okay, sure. You don't have to tell them about it. They'll figure it out as they play. So some stuff like that, I have no problem with. But I think obscuring information from players, it's obnoxious. Ooh, nice. Okay, I've definitely got more health than I've had in ages. Oh, nest. Nice. Get out of here. I also like the idea of the walls only being, like, you can only find them while the game is going, because then you have to actually try to find them, and it's a challenge. That's cool. I like that. I will do better without curses. I'm gonna try without going for curses for a little while. Those curses hurt so much. I've yet to see a relic worth the curse itself. They're nice, but they are not worth it. Okay, so now he's on fire, but what does that actually mean? This guy's on fire too. I don't know what that means. Oh, I do miss that relic where the guys were weaker though. Man. That was nice when they started with like 25% less health. Woo. Made the boss fights so much faster. This just feels like a slow grind. Oh, I can't hit that guy now. I don't need to hit him. Just kill that one. Much easier. Alright. Ooh, another memento. I don't remember getting these before. I wonder if something's giving me more mementos or mementos in the first place. I wonder if that's one of those things I bought and unlocked, or if you beat them enough times you start getting them like a pity prize because I'm dying so much. I don't know. But I've never had this much health before. That's for sure. I'm getting... Let me quickly check my stream health. I was having issues before. So let's check my stats, make sure. Says I dropped about a 1.5% of frames a little bit ago. But it looks like I'm okay now, I hope. Let me know if it gets any worse or if something happens. But I'll go back. Okay. Oof. Fire rate. I do like the idol. That's cool. Alright. Okay. Yeah. Looks like it dropped a little bit. But here we go. Oh. No, this is one before. So we're getting back to it. I'm in a much better spot than I was last time, though. Wow. 5 health. I feel like I'm rich because my health is currency, and wow, 5 health. Dang. Oh yeah, walls. Check the walls. But I will say, without a bunch of damage upgrades, this is, oof, this is like a slog right now. I'm used to having like an extra 30%, 50% damage at this point. Yikes. I want to get like a sniper-like gun. I really like sniping in games, so if there's any kind of sniper, I'm going to go for that right away. Okay. Oh, what a jerk. Walked right into that one. Alright, that's what I figured. One of the games I think I might have talked about it last time was Archvale, Diego. Have you heard of Archvale? It was also a GameMaker game, and it is so good. It's a bullet hell, kind of like this one, but it's not. I think it's also a roguelike, but it's got more of a linear story and a large map progression to it that you kind of unlock as you play. And it's... Oh, oops, I meant to say yes. And it's a great, great game. Maybe I'll play through that coming up next. I need suggestions for what to do after Revita. I'm guessing it's still a couple of streams away. But what should I do next? I want to keep it in the GameMaker family, which kind of limits it out of all the games ever made. But if you've got any suggestions, or anyone does, let me know. Wow, I can offer 5 health? Let's see, can I actually add chat in here? Can I chat? I don't know if I can. Let me see. Darn it. I can't seem to chat from my stream. I'll have to check that out. But it's Arch, A-R-C-H-V-A-L-E. Okay. Ooh. Interesting. I don't want to curse all your stats a little bit. That's... Dang, these are all really good, but I am so tempted by this flamethrower. Oh. Like the Doom enemy? I'm not quite sure what that means. I haven't played too much of Doom. Arch, V-A-L-E, not I. I'm gonna do this. This looks awesome. Yeah, Arch Vale, V-A-L-E. Type Arch Vale game and you should see it. It's a lot of fun. It's a good game. If I die right here, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm gonna die right here. Oh man, I'm gonna die right here after spending my 5 health. Oof. That was rough. I probably shouldn't have spent all 5 health, but if I can make it to the boss, I should be fine. Now, all I have to do is hit these guys once, and then the burn should take care of the rest. Or at least a pretty good chunk of it. Yeah, if it'd be cool if it looked more like a flamethrower, but turning all my stuff into flame makes sense too. I just wish it was like more effective or something, you know? Okay, that's obnoxious. Come here. Just die already. I don't see any elemental damage in this game, which is fine. It doesn't, like, there's not a big emphasis on elements and magics in that regard, but it would be cool to have ice be weak to fire or something like that. That'd be neat. Sweet. A burning stock. Alright, I'll take it. Alright, there's a chest. I'll take that. Nice. That flame damage actually seems to be doing something useful. I like that. And what for the tutorial? Are you talking about like elemental damage? Okay. Oh. That would be an interesting design decision. Relics and buffs and stuff in general are always beneficial to the player. Making them not beneficial in some areas, like, from a pure randomness standpoint, that seems obnoxious. Like, if you actually chose your upgrade path, that seems like you could, you know, compensate for one area versus another. But if you have no choice on what you get, that's harsh. You could do it. That might just be my personal playstyle coming through there, too. But yeah. Come on. Whoa. Uh-oh. Come on. Dang it. Thought I dodged that. Oh, definitely thought I dodged that one too. Alright, not bad, not bad. I had a secret. Darn it. Yeah. Yeah, there's options for that. There's ways you could do that, for sure. Alright. That was pretty easy. I think that flamethrower was a good choice. Now I just need to find a relic that can compound on the flamethrower itself and do even more fire damage. Okay. Actually, why don't I just upgrade this? Oh, 2 hearts. Yep. My stream health went from 20,000 kilobits a second down to 800. So you will have encountered a slight drop there. I apologize. Okay. That hurt. Should be back to normal now. I've got to investigate what's going on with that internet. It's a little rough. Normally it's fine, but it has been acting up lately. So, I'll look into it. But here we go. This is where we were when we started. But now I'm a lot stronger. So hopefully, we can do this. What in the world is that? Need more secrets. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not good. What in the... Yeah, this curse. I'm never going to be able to get more health unless I get another max health somewhere. This curse saps all of the souls I'm gaining. That's rough. Oof. Alright, it's 3 health and half a shield then. To the moon, baby. Let's go. I really don't like these flies. There's just so many of them. Ouch. Gosh, darn it. Oh, I guess I have a little bit there. Come on. -3 curses, really? I have not seen one of those yet. But I guess now's the time to see it. Let's check it out. It reflects enemy bullets. Nope. I can't. Okay, there we go. There's an extra health, an extra heart. Oh no. Dang. Wow. It's like I've never played this game before. That was rough. be nice. Oh no. Oh, spikes. Okay. I got keys, but nothing to use them on so far. Yeah, lots of keys. Oh, great. Flame guys. Let's hope that elemental buffs don't exist either. Oh, okay. Okay. That was rough. I'll take a heart, please. Okay. If I can make it to the boss, I get a whole nother health, or another heart, which is a big deal. Can't even tell what's happening over there. Ooh, secret. Excellent. Come to me. I didn't think I'd actually be able to hit that side because there were so many enemies there. There we go. Okay. Okay. We got this. After this run, we'll move over to GameMaker and work on the rooms. And depending on how well I do, is how long it'll take. Oh, didn't look for a secret. That's okay. Alright, here we go, here we go. One more secret would... nope, okay. Cool. Peaceful decoy. Might as well use this. Can't imagine I actually want one of these. No. Nope. I'm out. You can't attack the shopkeeper in this game. That would be pretty fun. Okay. Chest, but I don't want to curse. Is this going to be giving me enough for some health? Nice. Alright. I'm in a much better spot than last time. If I rely on my flame damage and just kind of chill and dodge, I've got a good feeling about this. And I like that I can attack before. Wow, what? Just me, or is this a totally different attack pattern? What is going on right now? Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Dang. This is gonna be rough. Stay on fire already. This one I don't quite understand how that... Okay, walked into that. That's fair. Oh, and it explodes as soon as it sees me. Okay. I'm dead. Oh. Okay, now I'm dead. Nope, now I'm dead. Oh. Ah. Alright. Bad. That guy's hard. Definitely don't remember those giant, slow, exploding balls last time. I feel like that was a different attack pattern, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe I just didn't notice. But, oof. That was rough. Yeah, I'll grab those. Cool. Talk to these guys really quick, and then we'll move over to GameMaker. Okay, so I want to check out the weapons. I don't know if there's a new one or not, but... Okay, let me see how that works. Hot chocolate. Alright, I'm curious about. I feel like a new weapon would be great. But I also don't know if it's going to give me a new weapon yet unless I do these. Oh well, let's try it. Change gun. Yep. Alright, okay. Let's try this. Oh, that's kind of fun. Alright. I'll try that. That looks like fun. That could be pretty interesting. I'm guessing I need to either unlock guns or buy them. Don't know how it goes. But I've got enough here. Let's buy a few more of these. Might be worth saving those in between each one, since you seem to start with the two you buy. I'll probably do that next time. Okay. So, what did we get here? Interesting. Alright. Someone still wants to talk to me. Is that the dummy? Did he actually have something to say to me? Oh. Interesting. Of course. Now the sniper appears after you buy them. And I can't afford it. Life sucks. Yeah, I can't afford that. Alright, well, I know what I'm doing next time. Sniper right away. But, at least for now, let's go ahead and call that good. Depending on how long we're in GameMaker, we may jump back over. But, let me go ahead and pull this up. So, let's go in GameMaker and... Okay. So, what we're going to do is figure out how to set up a room system in our game. So, we're going to go with creating a set of rooms, and what we're going to start with is just linking these rooms together. So, whatever rooms you've made, however you've linked them, we're going to set it up so that you can transition from one to the next to the next. So, something super basic to start, and then we'll look at a more complex system to basically randomize the rooms that you're moving between. So let's say you start on the, I'm going from left to right, but whatever. Let's say you start in room 1, and then when you're done with room 1, you unlock the next one. And that room, whatever it is, you can choose, it'll randomly choose from a list of rooms, and then that will be the room that's there. And then you move into it, and then you can move back if you want, or you can move forward to the next room once you unlock it, whatever the case is. So, let's call this Rogue Like Rooms. Okay. So, you can design these rooms yourselves, but the idea is going to be exactly the same, even if they are procedurally generated, in the sense that you can just create a room, and then this is what's going to be there. Opening things in other rooms requires saving and loading data, because you cannot do much. Well, we'll look into that as we go, actually. So, first, let's just quickly make a player object, because we're gonna... I guess we don't have to actually be able to move from room to room, but it's just easier if we just very quickly create a system of moving left and right. So... bump up this text here. So we're just going to be able to move left and we'll be able to move right. I don't think we need to be able to move up and down by any means because the system will work exactly the same no matter where you're at. But let's go ahead and put this player in the room, and let's make a couple of rooms. And in that case, let's actually go to rooms, and let's make 3 rooms right here. So, room start, room level 2, room level 3, room level 4. Now, what we name these rooms will be inconsequential, but that's what we're going to give them a name to start with. So, in room start, where this is the starting room because this is where the home icon is, and even if it's not the bottom because it's being categorized or sorted alphabetically, that doesn't matter in the slightest. This is the room we're starting in. If you wanted to change that, you can drag a room up and do that, but that's not what we need to do right now. So let's just make sure that we can move left and right, and this is where we're going to begin. And it defaults to GX Games, even though I thought I had changed that. So let's go ahead and move that back. Okay. And that's actually really slow. But the idea is the same. I'm just gonna like double that speed because that's gonna take forever. Okay. We're gonna make another object. Gonna call this OBJ Room Manager. We're gonna need some logic inside of our game here to track where we're actually at inside of each room, and we're also gonna need a transition object because we need to know where we're gonna be going into that next room, because you need an X and Y location for when you start. Because by default, when you transition a room, if I'm on the right side and I use the code to change rooms, then I'm going to be on the right side when I start that next room. My player, that main object, has not shifted or moved at all. So every time that we transition rooms, we also need to transition where the player is being is at. And the easiest system that I know is just a warper, just something with a few local variables. So, or not local, but a few variables inside of here, which I use the variable definitions because it allows you to change them inside of the room editor really easily. So I'm gonna name this we're gonna call call it next room. Doesn't really matter, but what's really nice about these is if we come in, we can actually change what type this is, and we can change it to an asset. And then we can actually lock this down. And we can say you can only choose a room, which is pretty neat. And we need a X position and a Y position. And this is going to need some kind of sprite to indicate that we are actually colliding with it. I'll give it an orange sprite here. Doesn't matter much what it is because we're just going to place this in our room, probably like on the outside of our level here. And what we're going to do is when we hit this, we're going to transition to the next room. And that's really all it's doing. But with those variables that we actually added, we can double click on this and open up variables. And so now we actually have them right here, and we can edit this and we can choose the next room that we want to go to if that's what we want to go to. So let me just show you that first, because this is the principle, and then we're going to be taking that to the next step, which is dynamic room choices. So I want to go to room level 2, and I want to start on the left-hand side. So I'm just going to put my player basically where I'd want them to start, which would be like right here. So that's going to be 32 and 320. Don't leave that object in there, otherwise that's going to be a problem. But 32 and 320. We're still going to use these objects like this warp object, but we're just not going to select a room right here. We're going to call a function and choose a room, probably from an array. So now we go into the player, add an event that's a collision with that warp. And always do comments. It's a good practice. So we're going to say x, well, we're going to move our x to other dot x position, y equals other dot y position. So other dot, so I'm accessing the other objects that I'm colliding with inside of this event, which is the warp, and I'm grabbing those variables. And I'm going to say room go to other dot next room. And this is the function that changes your room. That's it. You don't have to do anything else if all you want to do is change a room and just type in that room that you're going to. Yeah. So you are, depending on how you want to do it, if you want it to be fully dynamic, Diego's asking how, I assume you'd have a way to detect if the rooms have warps in certain walls. So we're going to start just with this system, and then I'll see if I can tackle that question as we go. In the beginning, we are going to just have a warp that we manually placed inside of our room right here. And once you get to full dynamic rooms, you could choose where the warp goes, but even then, unless it's procedurally generated, you're still probably going to be placing those warps by hand, and then the room that you designed, you'll be able to see like where they're at. But let's see where we're going. So with that right there, this is about all we need. Now, I believe there should be one error that we hit, and I want to change the background color on these just so that we can visually see that these are different. So this one's black, and I guess that one's gray, and that's all we need for right now. But if we do this, our player has to be persistent. So that's one error. So persistent. If it's not persistent, it's not going to stick around to the next room. And actually, there we go. So the other error didn't actually happen like I thought it would. Let me see if I can trigger that error one more time, but no, that actually works out great. So that's a simple warp. I have this tutorial on my channel already, several of them actually, because it's a very common thing to be able to switch between rooms. Now, if you've got like a fancy room transition with a fade in and a fade out, or a really cool surface animation, cool, you can throw that in here, make a custom object, do all that. This is just super simple to move from one room to another, and all you have to do to be able to switch back rooms, well, for one, you have to click on the instances layer, but then drag that warp back in and edit this one. So I'm in level 2, and if I wanted to do this, I would say this one goes back to the start room, and in the room start, I would want it to basically go right here, which is 12, 48, and 352. So 12, 48, 352. And now, from room start to room level 2, you can go back and forth. So those rooms are still alive. The rooms themselves are not persistent, so that's an entirely different idea, is keeping a room alive while you're actually doing something. But Diego had an excellent question about being able to trigger something in another room if you wanted to, like if you're working in a puzzle or a maze. Now, I'm curious, there is a function, so I'm going to go and add a key pressed, I'll just do enter for now. Create an object in another room. So there is a function called instance, or actually I think it's room instance add. So you can add an instance into any other room than the current one at any position. This is something I have not used a lot, so let's experiment with this. Let's add another warp object into this room, into the room we're moving into when we press enter. So the index of the room would be room level 2. We'll put it in near the top left corner of the room. Yeah, that's fine. and the object will be another warp. Now, this warp will not be usable, but it's going to do something. So, this is a return value of a pure function not being used. Interesting. So let's open up the manual for a second, because this is actually going to give us a more in-depth thing. So, returns the ID of what you make. That's normal, but only once the game has entered the specified room. Okay, so the function returns the ID, which can be used for further calls or property sets, but only once you've entered that room. Okay, you can't actually edit an object not in a room, but you can create one in another room. So this has an interesting property. Calling this function on a room asset created in the asset browser, which is most rooms. If we wanted to get into pure dynamic room generation, you can actually dynamically add room assets while your game is running, which is fascinating. Not what we're doing here, but if you're making a roguelike, that might actually be what you want to do. But the rooms we have made are in the asset browser, and it will permanently add the instance to the room. So even if you call game restart, this instance that we are adding will stay in there forever until you actually close the game down. Good to know. So when I press enter, it should add a warp object into this room. Enter. And there it is. So you can create an object in another room. And what this would allow you to do is have that object, when it's created, do something inside of that room. Now, this is not a complex game that we're creating right now, but let's go ahead and say, let's make another object that's like, I'm just going to call this test. And what I'm going to do is make this a white square. And in room level 2, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to put this white square right here. And let's go to the create event. So imagine this was, actually, okay, let's just imagine like this is some kind of barrier. It's a wall. You can't move through it, okay? Now, if instance number, so we're going to say if there's more warps in here than what we originally start with, which, so that means that there's 2. So if there's 2 warps, well, hold on, obj warp, if there are 2 of them, then we'll just destroy ourselves right away. So imagine this is a gate, this is a lock, this is something that you have to do in another room. So when we move in here, this is here. When we come back, I'll press enter. And now the gate, the warp, the block, whatever is gone. Because the room started and there were 2 warps, and it picked that up on its creation code. And now it's never going to be there again because this block is always there. So that's how I would probably go about it. If you have some kind of lock you have to, or some kind of treasure chest you unlock in one room, or a puzzle you solve, and then you come into that next room and you want it to be something changed, that you could do just like that. That's one way. Another way to do it would be to have some kind of, to actually make your rooms persistent, which is an object, which is a checkbox right here. Now, persistent rooms get a little trickier because everything inside of them and all the times that they move and everything will stay that way forever. And so it might not be what you're looking for, but that idea could be. Like you come into this room, you do something, you move it around, you go into another room, you move something else around, and maybe they're linked or something by some kind of property. The third way would be if you were to save the data in a file, like an INI or a text file or something, and you save it every single time you leave a room, and you load it every single time you enter a room, and then the objects do something based on the data that you read from that file. if you had a big complex game, and especially a game that you actually wanted to be able to save and load, like have the player run and do that, that's probably what I would do. But this one will work for more simple games. So now let's go to the room manager, and I'm going to make sure to put this in the start room, otherwise we're going to have issues. Doesn't need a sprite. Instead, let's go to the other rooms really quickly and change the backgrounds. So something that I really like, and maybe you've seen or not, is the effects you can actually apply to individual layers now. And so one of the ones I really like to do, which just kind of makes it look fun, is one of these. Yeah, no, not the heat haze. Where are you? No, not the hue. You can shake the screen, but that's not what I want. Oh, maybe you have to... Oh. Okay. It kind of gives the background kind of an interesting look. I don't know. That's the third level. Fourth one we'll do here. If we actually just do like that, that's a really weird effect. I don't quite understand when you would use this, but now every single level is very much unique, so we know which one is which when we're moving between them. So, here's our room manager. So, essentially what we need to do is have a list of rooms, and when we move into the warp to go to the next room, that warp at that time will select a room that is available, mark it off of the list that it can no longer be chosen, either delete it or say you can't choose that number or whatever, and then we're going to save that in that object. So that object has to remember it, so we might want to make the warps actually persistent. That would actually make the most sense here. With this system we're doing, we're going to make these warps persistent now. No. If we make the warps persistent, they will move from room to room. Definitely not what we want. So we're going to tackle this as we go. But for now, let's create an array called rooms that has all the rooms we can have. So level 2, level 3, level 4. And again, this is the same idea. Even if you were to procedurally generate or dynamically create these rooms while your game is running, you would just array insert concat. So you would, no, that's not what it is. But you would just add, get the length of the array and just add it on here. So, yeah. And then if you made a new room like this, I wonder how you do that. Is it room? Probably asset. I don't even know how you make a room. I'm kind of curious how you create a room dynamically. Room assign, room add, there it is. So if you wanted to do this, you could do that. I'm not really comfortable. Not comfortable. I don't know how to go in and change all this. Like I could go in and read it, but I feel like that's getting very much off topic. But you can create a room and then set its width, height, persistent, all of its stuff, background, filters, layers, everything right there. Totally fine. And then this would just add it to the end of the list. And this is a way that you could actually make a game where the player can design their own levels, put it in, and then they could play those levels if you wanted to. It's pretty cool stuff. But for right now, here is the rooms list. And what we're going to do is we're going to have this warp object grab one of these as soon as we collide with it, which that collision event is in the player. So we're going to choose, just with a local variable, we're going to grab well, no, it makes more sense actually in the create event of this and of the warp. Choose an available room. So this warp object is actually going to grab a room for us. So we know it's in OBJ Room Manager, and basically I just want to choose one. So what in the world? Okay, so my variable next room, which by default is 0, but in the room I have set that variable, so I'm actually going to come over here, and I don't know if this will overwrite it. I imagine it would, but let's find out together. So next room equals obj room manager dot rooms, and we're just going to choose irandom, and the number needs to be the array length of obj room manager dot rooms minus 1 because it starts at 0. And the array length goes there, which means the minus 1 goes here. I do wish that GameMaker would be more consistent in its array functions. They've added a bunch recently, but it is still obnoxious that some of them start counting at 0 and some counting functions don't start at 0. It is what it is. In this case, array length, we have to, I think array length doesn't start at 0s, which is why we have to subtract 1. So let's put a breakpoint on that and give this a try. Okay. Here, next room is 1, and if I go next, we're going to have an error. Nice. OBJ room manager hasn't been set. So back in the room start, we're going to click on instance creation order and put our room manager up at the top. If it's not at the top, then it doesn't get created first and we can't access it here. Okay. Now if we go and we look at obj warp, so next room is still 1. Now, that might be because it randomly chose 1, but sometimes I do question that, which is why I like to do this. If I split this up, it allows us to actually see it saved in a local variable, and then you can pass that into here. And now if we run it again, we can actually see what number is. So number here is 0. So by default, next room is 1. If we do that, next room is still 1. So I'm curious if it's actually changing it because, well, first it might need to finish this. So let's finish this first. Okay. Let's pause it. Next room is still 1. So if we go into this, okay, so this is the other warp being created, and there's no room manager because I didn't make it persistent. Lovely. Okay, nope, room manager needs to be persistent because every single time it's going to choose it. So I'm just going to run this and see what happens. That's probably the easiest way to do it. Okay, so this time it looks like it did work. Yeah, so it is working. So let's go to room manager and add randomize in here because otherwise it's always going to be the same. But it just picked a room and there it is. So now we've gone to this next room. Now, just so that we can actually keep moving on, I'm going to put this in each of the rooms because each room needs to have a warp on each side to indicate where we're going. They don't need to be full length because I can't move up and down. These boxes are so trippy. Like if I move my camera, whoa. Okay, let's try that again. Now, what's happening is they are choosing a new room to go to every single time. So that means if I go over here, I have no idea where I'm going to go. And it's going to put me in some weird spots because by default, remember we went in and we actually chose where this would go. This one is at that same one, which is not where we want it to be. So copying and pasting actually caused an issue there. So let's go ahead and fix those really quick. So when we go into a one on the right, 32 and 320 is what the number should be. So 32 and 320. So let's go ahead and fix those ones. 32, 320. Nope. 32, 320. And when we're going to one on the left, it means we're going that way. So 1248 by 352. And I just realized we need to put one of these in the starting one as well, because we could absolutely be warped over there. So let's go back to room start, copy this. Okay, now when we run it, we should be able to move between all of the rooms here. And every time we hit one of these, even the one we go back to is actually going to be different. We have no idea where it's going to take us. But that idea is where we're starting. So every room warp now chooses a room. So what we need to do now is we need to have a system where that room warp actually remembers which one it is, and we need to cross it off the list once it chooses it. So couple different ways to do it, but we already have the room manager, so we're going to try and use this object to manage these things, which is what we should do. So we're going to go to other, and on a room start, okay, my process for this is just to try something, and if it doesn't work, try something else. So when this chooses the number that we're using, we're going to then remove that one from the array. So array delete, and that array is room manager dot rooms. The index is going to be the number that we just chose, and the number is just 1. So we just want to take out one entry. So to watch this actually work, we're going to put in a breakpoint. So it grabs number 1 the very first time. So we're going to go to room manager, and you can see that we've got 3 options for a room here, which, let's actually go back to the room manager really quick and put in that room start option as well, because maybe we want to be able to go back to it, but I just want to have more options here. So number is 3 this time because it's randomized. So 0, 1, 2, 3. So it's going to remove the last room. Boom. Okay. Now we just ran it, and there are 2 warps in the first room. So now we're going to remove number 1. And there it is. So now we just have those 2 rooms left. So now we have a list that's shrinking every time we play because we only have a certain number of rooms. So if you were creating a list of rooms that you could choose from, you would grab from that master list and throw them all in. And then as you play, it scratches rooms off the list so that you don't have repeats. Now, if you wanted repeats, just don't delete them. Totally fine. But in this case, if I come over here, now it's going to do the same thing, but it's going to do it twice because there's 2 of them. And now it's going to remove the last one. And now we're going to get an error because there's no more rooms to delete. So I'm going to go back to room start. So we need to have some way to actually link the room that we're moving to with the room that we're moving back from. So okay, again, I can sit here and think and plan for a while, but what I like to do is just try something. So we know we're going to be... I don't actually want room start in there at all. I take that back. I don't want that there. And in room start, I don't want to have a warp over here on the left. I want this one warp. Gets created, choose the level it goes to. And it's going to choose the level. And then it needs to actually create a warp going back. And that warp going back needs to already have its properties set. Because the only warp that we care about are actually the ones on the right-hand side. And you can apply this however you want. And this white thing is dead because there's always two warps in here now. But we can apply this even if you had multiple warps. Like if you wanted to be able to go left and right between a room, awesome. If you wanted to go up and down, no problem. If you wanted to have multiple directions, multiple exits, like you were actually making a grid where you could explore anywhere, that gets a little more challenging. But the only thing that matters is that when we go in to a room, when we hit a room warp on the right, the warp object that we create on the left takes us back. All the other warps in the room will automatically choose a new room to assign itself to. And that's awesome. That's all we need. So we just need a system that the warp here knows where we were. So I don't want it to choose a room. Because if it chooses a new room and deletes one, that's a problem. You can create a warp, you can create an object in another room, but you can't set its properties until you hit that room. But this will probably trigger first. Okay, so here's where we got the problem. How do we make it so that we can create a warp but not have its trigger its create event? I could move its create event to somewhere else, like the collision event with the player, and have it do it then. How about when you start the level, the layout is created and saved instead of picking the rooms randomly when you touch the warp? I mean, you can, but I feel like we already did that, right? If we come in here and we manually set each of these, then we could map out exactly how you want it to be, but that's all it is you're just choosing. You're setting the variables in each of the warps that you have, no matter how many you have, and you're telling it exactly where to go. For most of the games being made, that's actually what you want to do, because that's the system where you enter a house and you want to enter that house, not some random room inside of your game. But for a roguelike, I mean, if we wanted to call it here, we could. I feel like I'm not doing what we set out to do. But I guess, Diego, is this kind of what you were looking for, or am I missing something? Where we have a warp object, we can set it, and then we can warp to it, and then we can warp to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. And you can have it be up, down, left, right, but wherever you want it to go. Like a function that shuffles the variables of each warp. You start the level, the layout is created and saved. So when you start in general, okay. Okay, I see that. I think I see what you mean. So when you first begin a run is kind of what we're doing here. Yeah, it's already predefined at the start of the run or the level or whatever you want to call it. Okay. but it's still randomized. So you still run into that exact same problem, except I guess that is actually easier to work with. So, in that case, in that case, I would probably use a 2D array with a for loop. And what I'm going to actually do is you have the rooms and the X and Y position of where you're going. So let me look at something. Well, I guess let me just try something first. So writing a multi-dimensional array is just different than I remember it. Like, it changed from when I used to do it a lot, and so I'm trying to remember exactly how this works. I want to say it's more like this now, but that doesn't quite seem right. That's gonna make way too much, isn't it? Let's see. Let's just see how that actually turns out. I don't think that's at all what I want. But if we look at rooms, built in, we have 0. Yeah, that's not what I want. So let me open up. Let's just look at the manual for arrays really quick. Because I think what we want here is a 2-dimensional array, but yeah. There we go. This is what I'm looking for. I want an easy way to write these. That's what I want. So, rooms equals, open it up, and then another array inside of here. So, room level 2, 32, 320, and there was, I think there was that in there. Now, the actual numbers here are based on moving from left to right. So if you were creating something that you wanted to be able to go from right to left or up and down or diagonal or somewhere else inside of your room like stairs, totally fine. You just need to change where these numbers are. So this is going to return. So rooms is going to be a 2-dimensional array, and we're going to choose one of these entire sets of instructions. But yeah, and when we choose it, when we start, so we're going to actually kind of do it right here, is when we start the level, is we're also going to remember where it came from. So okay. Okay. So these are the combinations of rooms that you can create, or that warp to. These are the levels that they actually are stored in. So let's go with the first one is going to be a random one. And let's see if I can actually just grab the code from right here. since this is the exact same thing of what we're doing essentially. In this case though, change the name. And then oh, okay, we're gonna have to save that because I need to know which one I'm actually pulling out. So we're gonna do that. Okay. So I'm gonna leave some comments for me. So all the rooms you can warp to, the order of the levels, choose the order now, and delete when you choose one. So we need to do this however many times, however many rooms we have. So we're just going to use a repeat. I don't use repeat very often. I like for loop better, but when it's something as simple as this, nope, I take it back. I don't use repeat because almost every single time you need a for loop in here. So, and just right now I'm going to need that I, and I don't like creating an I outside of it. I just feel like that's a total waste. I need an I right here because this levels is going to continue to change. So the first one is going to be 0, and then the next one is going to be that, and so forth. So that should be what I need. And just so that I can see it, this is all data organization so far. So here's the order, and I feel like I'm missing one. So let's put a breakpoint right there, and let me check one more time. So the levels that we have, good, but we're missing we're missing one. So somewhere in here, it chose not to grab one. So let's go through our for loop really quickly and check that out. So it should delete one from here. So possible rooms and levels. So we've copied one level, and now we're going to delete that. Okay. Now we do it again. So I is 1. So we're grabbing 1 right there. Now we're grabbing that one. Okay. And now there is still one more left. I is 2. Oh, okay, that's fair. Array length is changing. I'm actually deleting part of the array as I'm going through this. So it calls that function, the array length, every time. I cannot be using that because then it's getting smaller and smaller every single time. So let's try that one more time. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, perfect. So we've got the levels now, and the possible rooms, you can do as many as you want, and these numbers can change, and you can add more data if you want. Because this is a 2-dimensional array, you can grow this as much as you want. So if you wanted a different looking warp object for each one, sure, no problem. You can do whatever you want because all we're doing is saving them in a list and then plucking them out at a random order, and then we're going to do something with that data. So that's the goal that we've got right here. So I don't need this. Here's our for loop, which is what it does. It grabs those and then deletes them. So at the end, we have no more possible rooms because these are in order. I suppose we could just do a quick shuffle, couldn't we? Okay. So I'm not used to GameMaker having a lot of array functionality, But here's an array shuffle function. We probably should have just used that. But we've already written our own, so there you go. That one's free. All right. We have shuffled these up or chosen our own. We've moved it from one to another, so essentially shuffled it. If we had just called that right there, it is what it is. Okay, now comes the hard part of actually implementing this into our game in a way that works. So we're going to need to keep track of the levels of where we are. So we know based on the first entry, it's the level. The second entry is the X, I'm pretty sure. Let's verify that. Yeah, second entry is X, third one is Y. So I often will actually create macros as I'm going through this. Something like I would do something like this. And then when I'm accessing the array, like if I was to then say levels, I would just say level. That way I never am confused about which one I'm accessing. This is only really useful when your 2D arrays start getting large, or even your 1D arrays. But I've worked on projects where I've had like half a dozen to a dozen indices inside of a 2-dimensional array, and trying to remember what the 7th one is as opposed to the 3rd one when I need it gets really confusing. And so having a named macro or even an enum would be fine too. An enum is probably more efficient, but one of those can be very helpful when your arrays start having multiple properties that you need to reference in different places. Okay. So now we're going to do this. We don't want the warp doing anything anymore, so I'm going to get rid of that. I'm not even sure that we need these variables anymore, but we'll see. It doesn't hurt to have them right now. But when the room starts and the room manager is in it, what I want to do is I want to grab this warp. Now, I'm in room 1, so there's 1, 2, 3. I'm going to go ahead and delete this last warp because I don't have another room, and that will cause the game to crash. So I'm going to create the warp where I actually want it to be, which is going to be 1344 by 96, which isn't a huge, yeah, I think that's fine. So when the room starts, we're going to create 1344 by 96, and we're going to make this on the layer, obj warp, and then when we create it, we can just pass in the data directly from levels inside of this var struct. Very useful. So we don't have to capture this ID and then use the dot index over and over and over. We can just say next room equals, so we know, so I need to keep a counter, and the counter will start at 0 to determine how many levels I have given out to the warps. So next room equals levels counter, and it's a 2D array, so it's the 0th index, which oh yeah, it's a struct. So next room being set to that, X position being set to this, and the Y position being set over here. So the syntax here is a little different. If you're not familiar with structs at all, you don't use an equal sign and you don't use a semicolon. A struct just has that kind of difference, but then it has the flexibility of you can actually access these properties inside of there, and structs can have their own methods and structure like mini objects that you can pass around, super, super useful. But for now, that's all we're gonna do. So once we've done this, we're gonna increase, well yeah, actually we just need to do 1, so let's increase counter by 1, which is what that does right there. Now, we only want it to do this whole thing one time for each room. So we can't have it be doing it every single room. But I know I'm in room start when this happens. Okay. I don't want to have a big long if statement that if I'm in room start versus room level 1, stuff like that, it does one thing over another. That's not useful. But I do only want this to trigger once per room, and I need to know which room I'm in when the room is starting. Unless we create every single one using that instance create in another room, save all the IDs, and then give them... Well, that's the issue with game design and programming, is there are an almost unlimited valid number of ways to do anything. Some are more efficient, but in this case, efficiency doesn't matter because this code is not going to make or break a game, but just coming up with something that works and not scratching one idea for the next one that pops into my head. This idea I think will work. We just have to come up with how do we only create this once. So we know we're starting in the room start. And when we move into the next one, we know where that's going to be because we've set it here. And we only want to do it when we're moving into the next room. So if we just check which room we're in, and if that room matches, or doesn't match, but if it's the one before in this list of levels. So let's say that it was this order. It probably won't be, but let's say it's this order. We're in room start. We set it up. We're golden. We move to level 2, and it's going to trigger again. And again, we're still golden. No problem there. This warp will pick another room. The issue comes in if we move back. We have to get this one set up properly too, which we'll do in a minute. But if we go back and we come into here, we know this room, like even if we were to come all the way back over here, we know the room that we're in is in the list, but it's one entry back. And so, let's try this. If it works, I'll explain it better. If it doesn't, then it's a failed idea. So, we're going to check here. If the room we're in is equal to levels counter -1, then we're going to do this whole thing. Because we know that we're in a room that we need to be in. That we know that we're in a room that we've already been in. And this will only trigger one time, but we also have to do a check here if counter is greater than 0. Because if we don't add this in, it will put counter to -1 and then try that. So, okay, first let's go back and get rid of all of these edited values because otherwise I think they might overwrite what we're doing, and that's no good. So right now we are only tackling the warps to the next room. I think the warps coming back will be significantly easier, and we will tackle them after we do this. So, let's find out. Okay. No. So, I don't think that worked at all, because we were actually at 0, 0, and room 0 would be room start in this case, and it moved us back over there. So, debug time. Let's see what's going on. Okay. Counter is not greater than 0, so it's going to go through, blah, blah, nothing. Okay. So the first time, that's a problem. This has to pick a room. So, that's 1. Or, so that has to be all true, or room has to be equal to room start. Because we need it to trigger in room start, and it's a unique condition. It's an edge case that only runs right there. So it only matters for the very first starting room, so we have to add it in, I think, kind of like this. And so then it goes through, and we should be all good. And we can actually check this in the debugger itself, although it made 4 warp objects. That's not what we're looking for. Okay. That is definitely not what we're looking for. Counter's already 3. Okay, so let's go back and take a look. So, right. As soon as it hits this, we need it to be done. We need this for loop to be done. So I'm going to add this counter actually inside of here. But we have to say other dot counter. And other does not exist in variable definitions. Darn. Oh, no, that's fine. That's fine. I'm looking at something else, thinking about something else. So we can put this still in here, but then we're going to break because we don't need to run it more than one time, just once. As soon as we hit it, we're done with that loop. We never need to make another warp inside of this room. So we're going to go here and counter is 1 and break. Okay, so give me a second, because this warp should not actually exist. That's why there's 2 of them. So we only want there to be 1 warp. So here we go. So it's going to make it. I'm going to press play. Okay, so that's a slight problem. I'm just going to go ahead and fix that very quickly by going into the sprite, middle center, and I'm just going to make this a very, very tall sprite. So no matter how, where it's at, I should be able to run into it. That's close enough. Oh, don't even with me right now. Come on. Fine. Make it 1,000. Okay. So, it chose a room, and it warped us in there dynamically. This warp is still here, but it did not create another warp. So, the first part of it worked, okay? Let's go back and try the second one with the debugger and see what happened. So we know that that happens, okay? Now, we can look at our variables, our instances that we got here. So levels is 0, 1, and 2. We've got So we know that we should be going to room 2, then 3, then 1. So counter is greater than 0, and room oh, 2D array. This is not a 2D array. That is now a 2D array. Okay, let's try that again. Okay, so it picked it up because we're in that room, and it made a warp. Okay, so it moved us back there, and if we go here, okay. So we're getting somewhere. I think we have the first one, and we can verify that this is working properly because we can predict where we're gonna go. So this warp, so room manager. So the first level we're going to should be level 1. So the gray room. Okay. We ended up where we're supposed to. Now we should be going to the next room. So yeah, they just turned out in order this time. So now we should be going to the next room when we hit it. But we don't. So that's where we have some kind of problem happening. So first one's working properly. Second one is having a glitch. So let's take a look. Okay. Well, actually, let's go back a second. That glitch is probably happening on the creation itself. So I need to run the debugger here. Okay. So counter is greater than 1, so it's hitting this condition. So that check is being done properly. So Y position gets set. X position gets set, and next room. Now we can't see those, which is obnoxious. But it might be because it has to actually create that object first. So let's go here. Okay, come on, there we go. Counter's increased. There's a third warp object, which created those things properly. So we've got 3 warp objects in here, and all 3 of them take you back to the first room. So why are those there? Maybe we're transitioning between rooms? And now we're in the OBJ warp, like we just hit something. And now we just oh. Okay. I think part of what's happening right here is simply because I made the sprites too large, the collision is hitting. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change this, the X position, to 100. That way I land closer towards the center of the room, and I should not be colliding with that at all. There we go. So I was colliding with it, and it was causing an issue. That last one, we expect an error because it created one, but it actually has nowhere to go. I would have expected the error on the creation, but that actually looks like it's working properly. And what's kind of cool here is if we go to the, let's go to the draw event, And we can actually draw what each room and what the room order is before we go into it inside of here. So let's actually draw text. So I want to draw 0th one, no, I0. Now it's gonna be black, isn't it? No, it's gonna be white, but it's not gonna be spread out. So x 100 plus I times 64. Okay. That should spread it out a little bit. So the order of the rooms should be 1, 3, 2. 1. That one did not work. So that's the order that the rooms should be being made in, and it worked there once, and so I'm curious as to why it's not working now. But we also have some kind of weird glitch happening where there's a lot more warps inside of our rooms than we would expect. So what I'm going to do is we don't actually want this warp in here at all. So I'm going to delete all of these unnecessary warps because I think they are cluttering up the system just ever so slightly. I think I might be sometimes hitting that warp that was created or that was placed there instead of the warp that was created. Okay, variable index 3. Okay. Let me try that one more time. So we start here, should go gray, green, and then we should jump to boxes, but it's giving us an error there because counter is too large. Because we don't have another room to make at the last room. I hope that this is somewhat useful for something you're trying to design. But, so what happens is we get to the very last level where we're going to go, and it tries to make another warp, but we're out. Which means we need to have another catch here that if counter is greater than or equal to how many levels we have available. Actually, we'll make that not greater than or equal to, we'll make it less than. That way we can wrap this all inside of here. So it has to be less than the number of entries that we've got. So we should go green, gray, boxes. There we go. Now, that is the first part. We can now create as many levels as we want, pre-design them or proceed to generate them at the start of a game or however you want to do it. And then you create a list of levels and you randomly shuffle them between, and then we choose based on that shuffling that we did, manually I might say, we create it. And that warp we create as soon as we go into it, and it is predetermined where it's going to be going. So now we just have to go back. And when we go back, it should just be a warp on the other side of where we came from. And if you're going left to right, you know it's probably going to always be in the same location. If you're going to have different locations inside of your game where like you come up some stairs in one part and then you can, yeah, it might be different, but it might always, actually, I think it might pretty close be the same. So let's tackle that now because we've got the moving of rooms together. I can add as many rooms as we want right here, and we can string them together, and it's actually working properly. So now we just need to go back. I think we're going to do that right here. When we create the warp to the next room, we're also going to create the warp to the other, like to go back a room. So it's going to be going to be, we're going to have to split this if statement into two. Because I want to be able to access the room before it, but if I say counter -1 down here, and we're in this part of the if statement, then the game will crash. Because if we're in room 1, it won't work. So let's just split this if into two, which is going to be cleaner, I think, overall anyway. So if we have this edge case right here, and edge cases you just have to handle in and of themselves. There's no real trick to handling them because they're so rare. You have to be able to just handle them. So we already know that it's going to be like this. And it doesn't like that. Oh, that's fine. Yeah, I'll get to you in a sec. Okay. Oh, I see. I see. Okay. Got to copy and paste the whole thing. So, if the room is start, so this is the first room. We're going to create it, but we know we're always going to create it this one. That's just how it's got to be. We know it's the very first one. And ++ counter break. Okay. Yeah, I don't like this indenting at all, but I think it's actually correct. It's just awkward looking to me. So if we're in the first room, we do that. Otherwise, we don't need this anymore because we've already, if it's this one, we break the loop, so we don't actually need that anymore, so I think it's actually a little bit cleaner. Every other room after the first. So, if we're in a new room, changing these might totally break it. Okay. Instance create. Yep. And create the warp back. So create the warp to the next room. Create the warp back. So copy, paste, but it's going to be 32. Oh, well, hello there, Bisque Studio. Glad you could join us. We're going to make it on the left-hand side. We're just going to do room height divided by 2. So where it's going is going to be that counter -1. So we want to be able to go backwards with where we're at. So we should go to the third room, which is the last one. But we should now be able to go back to the very first room, which we cannot. So what happened here? Let's give this a try in debug mode and see what it did. So first room, blah, blah, blah. We know that's what's going to happen. Okay. Now we know we're not there. If room is equal to this. Yes. And this if statement goes all the way there, so we should hit that. Yep. That's all there, and now we go here. So, levels, we're at counter 1. So 1, it's creating to the last one, which if we look in our game, we can actually see that's what it's doing. Yeah, okay. But now it should be creating a warp here. Oh. Interesting. So counter is 1, which means we're going back 1 index inside of our array levels, and 1 index back is this right here, which I want to say is it is doing what it's supposed to be doing. Which, to be fair, is what code always does. Code always does exactly what you tell it to. So, we're close. What we need here is not to go back 2, because we can't go back 2 if we're on the first one, so maybe it's another edge case specifically. But instead, what I think it might be, this is, okay, let me try something. Let's just move through. No, it always creates a warp back to the exact same room that we're in. So that is not working the way that I intend it to. And we haven't increased counter yet here. And this... Am I using this for loop at all? I think I'm supposed to be using this I somewhere, but now I don't remember why I did a for loop specifically. I want to be able to create the warp dynamically. I think that's important. I don't want to place them in there. So, what do? We have the levels here, and the counter is keeping track of where we are. Okay. I need to know the room I just came from. And in general, that works totally fine. The only time that I'm thinking through my head. I talk out loud when I think. So if you've got an opinion or you notice something that I don't, chime in. But I am moving into the next room. So here, when I move into the next room, it's going to create a warp to the last level. And now if I go back, counter's actually at 2. So it's going to create a warp to this level? Yeah. No, counter's out. Counter should be at 2. So it goes back. Oh, man. You're not the only one, but I enjoy these kinds of logic challenges. This is fun. Okay, so first time counter. Okay, so counter was at 1 when it started, which hit here, or it starts at 0, and then it hit that for 1. Now it goes there and counters at 2. So when we hit levels, I'm actually kind of curious why, when we hit this, this is the first level, which is 1. Oh wait, why are we nowhere right now? Why don't we have any warps? Maybe I stopped moving too much. Okay. This is level 3 or 2. I mean, again, array, right? Level 0 is the starting level. But now this is level this is level 3. Oh my gosh. Right? I mean, yeah. Okay. For my sake of sanity, string. Oh, I can't do that, can I? I just want to change it so it's drawing +1. Oh, I can. Okay, cool. So we are moving into the third level, which is the green level. Now it's created a warp to the second level, which is the gray level. And now it's created that last warp, which let's just verify that actually works properly. Cool. Okay. All of the warps for that is working correctly. Now, when we move into here, we go to the gray level, and when we go back, it moves us into that level, and those warps don't exist because they weren't in the room to begin with, and we didn't add them through that layer add function or that room add function. And so none of the code in here triggered, which is good. We don't want it to trigger. So all of that is working properly. So we have this, and counter goes back to being 1. Now I'm curious why it actually creates it that way, because I would expect it to actually make it not that one. So yep, okay. So right now counter is 1, which means that it should actually be creating it for the 3rd level, which is what it's doing, isn't it? And again, if I don't move at all, if the debugger freezes it, my character, and so then it don't move. Okay, now I see what happens. That counter triggers, and I wonder, can I just do this? X, Y, yeah. Well, no, I want to go back, so I actually want it to be like room width minus 200 or something like that. Can I just do that? And then what happens if we just start counter at 1? Because if I have that, then everything about it crashes. That makes sense. So I'm thinking if the very first entry is the starting room, which we just manually put in there, then when it goes through this for loop, oh, okay, it's just gonna override it. Yeah, it should just override it completely. But because I added it like this, it kind of freaks out. But the idea, I think, is what we want. So I don't think I can add it like this because it's just messing it up. But I can't put it in here. Okay, that's not true at all. No, that's not what I'm looking for. I was thinking if we added... Okay, yeah, yep. So, first entry is to the next room. Then... No, we can't do that. I can't add a section in there for where we're going back to for every single one because it's choosing dynamically. That wouldn't make any sense. It couldn't work. We have to have a way of knowing where we've been, when we move, and then creating a warp back to that room. Okay. Last room equals... last room equals room at room end. So, create the variable so GameMaker stops yelling at us, capture it when the room ends, and then just do this. We know where we were. Why not just use that information? And we know we want to go back. And we don't want to go there. So let's go back here. And... okay. No. Doesn't like that. But why? I'm just going to make sure these warp objects are not metal. But again, am I? Oh, maybe I'm making a warp now in a really weird way. Okay, okay. Fine, fine, fine. I didn't change the levels. I didn't actually put that in there. But I started the counter. I left the counter at 1. Of course I did. Of course. That's got to be it. Okay. Okay. That first one seemed promising. And now you know what I realize? We actually want it to make it every single time. We need those warps to be created. And that means when we go back through a warp, we actually want to decrease the counter because we need to go back. So how do we decrease the counter? We could have the warp object itself move us back, but that means the warp object's got to have a lot of logic in it to understand if it's going forward or backwards through that levels list. Is that a lot of logic? How would I put that in there? Oh. Add another variable. Counter change. When we create one of these, add whatever that is to it. So when we go forward, it adds one, and when we move into the next room, it creates that. And when we go back, it creates that. And now that X position is way off for where we're warping to. But I think that's it. So oh man. Okay. Variable index -1 out of range. Going back caused an issue there because we hit it. And then we hit this code right here. And we're in the first room, so it should not be hitting that code. It doesn't hit it if we do it immediately, does it? No. So this is working correctly. Dynamic room changing. We come back into this one, and it works as well. So we are really close now. And we can go all the way to the last one. Oh. Okay. So something weird happens on the last one. Okay, so we have one bug on the very last room that we enter. There's nothing being created. But if we do this, we do actually come back, and then we have a bug right here. So there's two bugs, but we're actually really close. And I think these are not going to be that complex. So first, let's tackle that bug that's happening here. So I don't care about it now. Oh, what? I will say this does a weird thing. There we go. Okay. So I need to move forward one more. Okay. Now we go back. And this is where the bug happens. So the counter is actually 0. But the room does not equal room start. Even though we're in room start. So it should definitely be room start. We're in the second room. We're going back to the first room. But it says we're in room 3. So how is that possible? There is no warp object yet, so that hasn't even happened yet. Let me restart this. Oh, that's not restarting the whole game. Okay. Let's go back. 1, 2, 1. Now where's that code at? Actually, I just want to pause it. So, we're in this room. We're in the 4th room. We are going back to the 1st room, which means one warp should be taking us back to room start. So, next room is 1, and next room is 1. Why would both rooms be the same? Because okay, I see. I'm still dropping a lot of frames. Yeah. And did my camera actually die? Can you guys still hear me? It looks like the stream is active. Can you guys hear me? I know my camera died. Okay, you can hear me. Let me see if I can reconnect to this. There we go. Okay, that was weird. Yeah, sorry about that. The first stream was much better, right? There wasn't anything wrong with it, but the last couple days I've been noticing my internet has been extremely spotty, even though I'm wired and I have like 750 megabits down. It just seems to stop working for several minutes at a time, or at least come to a near crawl. So I apologize for that. I will look into it before I stream next time, because that is absolutely unacceptable. But here we are. Hopefully we can finish this out before it gets any worse. Thanks for sticking with me. So both of these warps are moving us from this room into room 1, which is room start. But that should definitely not be the case. So I wonder what would happen. Didn't I just have the game paused? Without a breakpoint even in it? Why in the world did that just crash on me? So if I go back, yeah. So that's working correctly. If I pause the game, does it just crash on me? No, that wouldn't make any sense. So this is all working. I can warp between these. So if I pause it here, we've got 2 warps. Both are taking me to that next room. Okay, that is bizarre. I am just pausing the game here, looking at the variables, and then the game crashes. This is something new to me. I've never seen it just fail. Like, it's like it's fine if you don't look at the data, but as soon as you look at the data, the game crashes. It's like it realizes that it made a mistake. If I don't look at it and I just press play, oh, no. I opened up the instances, so it's going to crash. It's like, what in the world is going on? That is truly bizarre. It doesn't seem to crash at all if I just run it. If I'm just moving between these rooms. Oh. No, that doesn't make any sense either. Okay. What is happening right now? Let me try something. Okay, so we go back. I'm not moving. I'm definitely not colliding with anything. And I have 2 warps. I'm not even going to pause the game this time. But each of them are to room 3. But this is room 3. This is room 4. How is that? 0, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. I don't know how it numbers these levels. This is room 4. This is room 2. So the order is correct. That order is proper. I just don't understand. Maybe I'm looking at something wrong here. Hold on. If I go to next room is 1, next room is 0. So if I go back, that actually works correctly. We know that that works correctly. I've done it before. We know we're going to 3, which is actually number 4, so that makes sense. Okay. So, again, we have 2 warps, and these are working perfectly fine. So the first time we're going through this, there's no problem. But as soon as we go here, this one actually works correctly again, but now when we go back, both warps immediately just try to go to room 1. And it can't. Well, I mean, they both can't lead to 1 because you got a problem there. So does that mean... That should mean if I actually go into either one, it should crash the game. I've only been going to the one on the left. What? Okay. When I said it would be simple, I may have lied. So why don't we tackle the other one first, because I'm not even sure what's going on with this one. We can't currently go to the very last room with warps in it. So we can go through here, but then we stop. So we're in the right room, but it doesn't actually make anything for us. And I imagine that is because... Maybe it should be an equal sign. No. Okay. If room is equal to levels, counter -1. So if we're at the very last one, and we start in a room, Let me see. Come here. Okay, I want to see the code here. If we hit this, nothing even runs. Yeah, that's kind of what I expected. So, if nothing runs there, that means the for loop isn't even getting that far. So, let's check that for loop one more time. So we're in a room, so it should definitely trigger. So counter is less than array length levels. That's what it is. Less than or equal to. We're not even getting into the for loop at all. Okay. So now we're getting into there. And 3 is out of range. But only on the Y position. So line 22. So why would the Y position on the counter... Oh, I think because it counts backwards when we are doing this. So the struct actually triggers backwards instead of forwards. Yeah, so it reads it the other way. So we're going to go here and line 22. Okay. So counter is 3. That's too much, isn't it? Because if we go and look at our levels array, it's only 0, 1, and 2. So there is no 3. It can't find anything. That makes sense. So then Y what do we do? So exposition, so our counter is 1 above our array, which makes sense because we actually did this. And before it was causing us to not crash, but it wasn't triggering that. So what happens if we put our counter to -1? I'm just curious. Yeah, won't work. Okay. So we have an edge case here for the first room. We might need a second edge case for the very last room, because all of these are the ones in the middle, which you would think in a long series of levels, that's going to be the majority of them. You're going to have a bunch of levels in between, and you need to have a special case for the beginning and a special case for the end. So how do we know? Well, I mean, we know. So if room is equal to levels, well, okay. Array length of it so first room, last room. So if we're on the very last room, then we want to do this. Well, if we're on the last room, we're not going to another one. In this scenario, for your game, it might be that you create the warp back to like a game or like the hub or whatever. And in that case, you'd create 2 of them. But in this case, the only thing we actually want to do is create that warp back. So I'm actually going to copy this, put a break in there. Yeah. Okay. -1. Don't scream at me now. Ah. Didn't quite work. Need to find out why. Right. Don't want that running every time though. Oh. Right. We're not even hitting it because of this, so we have to change that. There. We don't even hit it because it's making sure we don't crash, but now we've taken care of that edge case, so we won't crash. We will crash because it doesn't think we're on the last room for whatever reason. So, why does it not think we're on the last room? So if we hit this, room is 1. We look at our levels. The array length of levels is 3, minus 1 is 2, so we're right here. So it doesn't think that. So the room is this. All right. I wish you the best of luck, and I will see this through, and you can check it out. Yeah. I thought it would be a lot easier too. And granted, it might be. It's possible that the way I'm going about it is extremely more complicated than I think, but it also allows for a lot of flexibility because you can change how many you have, where you spawn at, and a lot of other properties. So hopefully it's worth the complexity. Okay. So room. Yeah, that won't work. Okay. So, I cannot... So I need to find a way to know if I'm on the last room. Currently, this creates a warp to where I'm going and a warp to where I'm going back to. But the only thing I want to do when I'm on the very last one is create this. So I need something for that last room specifically. But the issue here is that this is crashing it because counter is too high. So let's try something a little hacky. So if counter is greater than or equal to array length of levels, else, so in general, this is going to be for the last room, because if we're here, then I know that I'm actually on the last room, and what I want to do is create this, but it actually needs to all be the counter minus 1. And, nope, that's not what I want. This is creating a warp to the next room. I want this. I need to go back. So, when we're on the last room, we're going to do this specifically. inside of here. Okay. This is getting a lot of if statements even for me right here. So this could definitely be made simpler. This is the first rough draft of it. So let's make sure all of these align. Okay. If room is equal to the level that we're on. Let's see what happens if we run this. So go 4, 2, last one. Okay. That actually works. It works until you try to go back. So we can go forward 1 and back 1. And then we can go forward, back, forward, and back, and forward and back. And then, but we're stuck right here. Okay. So this system is almost working. There's just a few pretty significant glitches inside of here. So what we need to do is, well, I'd love to refactor it, but we haven't even gotten it working yet. So first, we've got to get it working, which means we have to understand why it isn't working. So we've got to do that first. Okay. This, I think, is working properly. We are creating a warp in the very last room to only go back. Okay? So that's right. But I wonder if we need to put a break right here inside of this else statement. Because otherwise we're actually going to make 2 warps, which... no, definitely don't want to do that. Then we're not making any warps back. Okay. So let's look at our system one more time, because it might be possible to simplify this quite a bit. So, we've created our rooms. We know which rooms we're going into. And I actually started using this last room, and that might be something we can do a lot easier here. So we know the last room we're in, and we know the current room that we're in because we're inside of it when the room begins, right? We're in the room start function. I would assume that we are in that room. I'm pretty sure we have to be. That's room 0. So now we're going to room 1 because I added 1 on here, so that's correct. So actually let me go back and take away that +1. Just because if I'm showing that message, it might be a little confusing. So we're going to room 3, going back to room 0. Okay. So that is actually working correctly, as I knew it was. Good to verify though. So what I want to do now is actually move from, this system might be too much here. We know where we're starting. We know where we came from. And with this levels array, we know where we are going. With that information, it should be very easy to make the system that we need to make. So why is it not working? Let's see if we can modularize this just a little bit. Function, create warp 2. And this is going to be new room, X position, Y position. Function, create warp back. So this is just going to make my code a little bit cleaner so I can actually see what's going on here. So when we create a warp, it's going to look like this. So this is creating a warp to the next room, right where we want it. And when we go back, we are creating it like this. So now let's go in here, create warp back, so it's the last room, and actually I don't need that X and Y position on that because it's always going to be the same, and this one is actually always going to be the same as well. So the only thing we're changing is the X or changing the room that we're going to. So we're just creating a warp back to the last room. Okay, let's clean this up a little bit. This is creating a warp to, actually, where was that at? Just counter. Okay, so create warp to levels counter 0. Okay, this one's creating a warp back. And last room. Yep. This one's level 0, 0. At the very least, that saves us a lot right there. Okay. Let's just see if that actually works. Anytime you put code inside of a function, it's a good idea to test it. That looks okay. So that part's not working, but I think that's more my code than changing it to a function itself. I'm pretty sure. But now we've got this. So the counter changes whenever we hit a warp. That is actually inside of our OBJ player right here. That increases or decreases counter. So that actually works exactly the way that we need it to. And with that change, I'm actually going to comment this out and try something else. So that whole thing was almost there, but it definitely had some issues. I could have gotten it by pushing a little harder, but I think we can work a little smarter now. So when we end a room, we capture where we were. When we start a room, we're going to create a warp to levels counter 0. And we're going to create a warp back to the last room. This is going to crash if we go too far, but let's just try it. So we go here, we go back. Interesting. So we hit this, and now we're stuck here. So let's check this. Our counter should certainly be changing as we go. So counter is 0. When we hit this, room starts, counter should be 1, which it is. Ah. that is a result of my function. Creating a warp 2 needs to be based on counter, and I put it at 0. So, let's try that again. Going forward, 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 crashes it because we don't have that last room to make one in. That's fine. Can we go forward and back? Yep. Can we go all the way back? No. So that did something very bizarre, which is the issue that we were having before. And now we've kind of... oh, I see. First off, when you write a function, you should use the variables that you use. Okay? We're passing these things in, but we're not actually using them. So let's try that one more time. Going forward, going backwards. Now we should go back to the start room, but we don't. So this is what was happening before, is we're actually going to a different room instead of the very start of the room. And that means that even though we had all this more complex code, there's something wrong here. We don't know how to get back to the last room because the last warp, the last room we were in was the one before. We can't capture that last room because that's where we were before. Okay. Now I see why we were getting that bug. Capturing the last room here only works the very first time. Let's create here. Okay. Now I know why I did that. So, let's bring back some of these if statements. So, first case. Edge case of starting in the first room. We only want one warp to the next room. So, if room is equal to start room or starting room, create warp 2, and we're going to go there. So that works totally fine. Now, edge case, so if we're in the starting room, we only create that. Otherwise, we create both. Okay, so that should take care of the very first edge case being the first room, and now there's no warp on our left, which is exactly what we want. So we go over here, we're good. We go through, we're all set. Last one, our next edge case is the very last room. So edge case of the last room is we can't create a warp to the next room, or we have to create it back to like the hub. So what that means is we have to have another edge case in here where we say else if room is equal to the last room. So it would be levels array length of levels minus 1, create warp back to, in this case, last room would actually work correctly because we can only go back to that last room. Okay, but it doesn't like that because the variable index is out of range. So counter is too high in this case. So the counter on line 12. So this entry, this comparison is not producing what I would expect it to produce. It is not actually giving us the last room, which is unexpected because we are looking at the last room here. So what I want to do here is actually run this in the debugger and try this one more time. So I don't want to hit that every time. So let's go back. Now we should hit it. Run the debugger. And let's see. So room, the one we're in when we start, is 1. And the last room that we should be in is 1. But what is that number that we're actually getting here? But give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Hey, someone need me? Someone knock on my door? Hopefully soon. All right. So this is not working the way we would expect it to. So for ease of use, we're going to call this ending room is equal to, basically I want the last, there isn't a, yeah, array last. So that's actually really nice. Of levels. Yeah, there's a lot of really cool functions in here now. So we don't need to do this whole thing. I just want to do this. And if it is, then we'll hit it. But it's not. For whatever reason, the last room does not seem to be. Probably because I keep doing it wrong. Again, 2D array. I bet you this will work now. It's a 2D array. You have to add that second index on. Otherwise, nothing's going to work. Yep, there we go. Okay. So now the warp back works, except it takes you just to that one last room, so that doesn't work. So that cleans that up and fixes that issue, which, there goes GameMaker. Seems to be having some issues there. But that solves the last room issue, the first room issue, and we know the issue for the second room. So let's go back into the room managers where we're doing pretty much everything here, and we're almost done actually. So room start, we've made this much simpler than it was before, much more elegant. So we're going to create a room 2. The last thing we have to do is make it so that when we make a warp back, it is not going to the last room, it's going to the previous room on the list. So let's write a comment here. Edge case of last room in list. We only want the warp back. Again, you can make something here to go to like the hub or finish up or something like that, but that's not what I'm worrying about right now. So we have 2 edge cases. I think we have one more to consider, and that is when we want to go back to the starting room. So else if room is equal to levels, and this is going to be the very first one. Then we create that warp back, not to the last room, but to the starting room. And we still need to create that warp 2 to where we're going. And so, yeah, so we'll call this an edge case and work it like this. So levels being 0, actually level counter. Okay, and then we have one last thing to fix because we don't actually want that last room and I don't want it running on gx.games. Okay, so we go here, we can go back. Now let's see if we can go forward and back. Okay, there it is. Now, this should cause an issue because we're still saying last room, which takes us there. So, this edge case that we just coded okay, so lots of edge cases to consider here, and that's okay. Now, the last thing is we don't want this. We actually want levels counter -1 here. Because we just want to go back to the last room. The only time we don't want that is here, and we already accounted for that. So now we go forward, and now we're stuck. Darn it. I was actually pretty confident that that's exactly what I wanted. So that happened when we tried to go back. So let's take a look. So if we go here, so that works. It only happens there, and then we're stuck in a paradox. Oh. No, we're not. It's adding a level. It's adding a level inside of there. So if we're not actually stuck, it's making another duplicate level inside of there, which is very interesting, but a very different problem than what we were just having. So let's make sure we're using what we're passing in here, right? Yes. And the warp back always goes back 1. And that always goes forward. Okay. So that is all right. So the only interesting thing that's happening right now is this is not working the way I would expect it to. But that puts us really close to exactly what we want, actually. So when we go back now, counter is 1, so it goes to 0. So at 0, it's creating to level 2. Yeah. Weird. That's doing some weird stuff right there. Counter. Okay, what happens if it's just counter? It shouldn't work if we just counter, because then it's actually doing the exact same thing. We know that one's an edge case, so that's a different thing. Okay, yeah, that doesn't work. It can't be just counter. We know we want to go back 1 more, which I would think would be -1, because that takes us back to the room that we were just in. And we know it can be, we know that it's at least going to be 1, because we've already accounted for this one. So we're very close now. I wonder if there's just one edge case that we're not thinking about yet. But we don't want an if, else if for every single one in between. This needs to work for infinite rooms in between because you can have as long as you want. So why does it fail? Or not fail, but why is this glitch happening? So let's try this. Let's just put in some debug statements because that fixes everything. Okay, now we should be able to see down here in the debugger exactly when edge cases are hit. So that actually is edge case. Yep. That makes sense. That's a regular case. So that makes sense too. Okay. Edge case 2. Is edge case 1 even triggering? Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. About to start room, start room. Okay, I didn't even see that. So, they're all being triggered as you would expect. But that regular one is the one causing us issues. So it's just ever so slightly causing some kind of problem right here. And I don't know why it's doing that. We're going back to, yeah. Doesn't have anything to do with where it's placing us. Room end is. Let's see something. Just want to make sure we're not hitting multiple warps or something like that. So there's 2 warps. In OBJ Manager, counter is 1. That's exactly what we'd expect. Counter should now be 2. Okay. And there's still just 2 warps. Counter is now 1. So it subtracted the counter properly. It just put us back into the exact same room, which is the confusing part, because we hit it, it subtracts 1, and then counter goes down. Okay, so let's take a look through this. So counter is 2. Look at levels. So we're here. So the warp is going to create to the last one, 1. Yep, that makes sense. So I don't need to see. Well, okay, let's make sure. Counter, counter. New room, yep, okay. That works exactly as you'd expect. Yep, yep, yep. So now counter is still 2, as it should be. Minus 1 is 1. So we're creating a warp back to 3, which is that. So that's what it should be. And it's minus 1, yep. Old room, yep, yep, okay. Now I didn't hold my hand down. Okay, never mind, we're good. So that all worked exactly as it should. Now we have 1 warp. So this is the warp that goes back. And that room it's supposed to take you to is 2, which is right. That's exactly where it should take you. But if we hit it, that does work. So that means I'm 1 off. So next room here should actually be 0, which is the beginning room. And when we hit that, we crash. Because counter is actually -1. Okay. So I got a little too far ahead of myself here. So when is this error actually happening? It doesn't happen here. It happens right there. But then we can go back here. Except we're trying to go back 1 too far. And we hit the edge case here. And I don't actually want to, so this one specifically, I don't actually want to make it, I don't actually want the counter to change. I don't want it to go down because, oh man, my brain's starting to hurt now. Okay, so counter is 1, counter is 0. 1, 2, 1, 0, -1. Yeah, that makes sense. 1, 2, yeah, that works. It's just like there's one extra room inside, then it causes an issue. And that extra room seems to be what seems to be what the primary problem is.